Welcome to Hondo's Martial Philosophy. This is where we talk about topics related to martial arts, self-defense, and fighting. I'm your host, Hondo, and as always, this is not a one-way conversation. I want to hear back from you in the comments down below or on Twitter @TheOneHondo. In this video, we're going to discuss the curse of ignorant violence. So what do I mean when I say ignorant violence? I'm talking about violence that is done and engaged in by people who have zero combat training, zero training in the martial arts, and zero training in self-defense. Now, the reason this is a curse is because with a little bit of training in self-defense, any fighting art, or any martial art, a lot of the violence that leads to injury, pain, and death would be avoided in society. With a little bit of training, we'd have a lot less death. The reason that is because training in any fighting system, any effective fighting system, will give you the discipline to control yourself in an aggressive encounter. Now, there are other things that can give you discipline, like dance or music or something like that, but they will not give you the discipline for controlling yourself in a aggressive physical confrontation where harm and injury and death are a reality. When people who don't have training get into those situations, their heart starts pumping, the adrenaline starts pumping, they're not thinking straight, they don't really have control of themselves, so how could they ever possibly control the situation or effectively navigate their way out of it? Just an element of training will give you more control of yourself. You're preparing to be in that situation, you're more comfortable with it, and you're mentally prepared, you're physically prepared to read the signs and deal with the situation. People who don't have training can't read the signs. They can't see when someone is going to attack. They're not prepared for the attacks, and they're also not being mindful of their own bodies, and they're not controlling the distance in the situation. And a lot of arguments, you'll see people get really close to each other, screaming in each other's faces, and then someone strikes out really quickly. Someone who is trained would keep the distance. They would not get in the opponent's face unless they meant to do harm, in which in that case they'd be the aggressor. But if they're the defender in that situation, they're not going to sit there and put themselves that close to someone to allow that person to strike them quickly. They're going to keep their vitals protected. Instead of turning their body fully towards an aggressor, they'll keep their body offline so that they cannot be struck easily. And so, without the knowledge of these dangerous situations, without the knowledge of confrontation, physical confrontation, people leave themselves vulnerable and escalate situations without even meaning to. With the lack of training, with the lack of knowledge, with this ignorance of violence and the ignorance of violent confrontations, a lot of unnecessary deaths and unnecessary injury happen simply because people don't know how to deal with themselves and how to deal with other people in violent situations. So, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments down below or on Twitter @TheOneHondo, and I'll see you in the next video.